The 2000 Dodge Caravan SE is one of the greatest examples of nostalgia spaces, and we're going to talk about why that is. Because this minivan existed during the peak of American suburbanism. The third generation Dodge Caravan, which debuted in 1995 for the 1996 model year, and this is the short wheelbase Dodge Caravan, these cars represented all the lessons Chrysler learned from inventing the minivan in the 1980s, cementing it as a must-have vehicle for the American Hallmark family in the early 1990s.
Oh, hey. Today's episode of Regular Car Reviews is brought to you once again by very hot Factor meals. Oh man, you know they have like premium stuff now? They have basil salmon, but I just came from the gym, so I'm hungry for marinara meatballs and mash, yeah. Anyway, Factor are fresh, never frozen meals, dietitian approved. And unlike most stuff that comes out of a microwave, this stuff tastes delicious. Hold on, I'm gonna plate this. Oh, much better. Tell me that doesn't look amazing. This is part of the, I think this is part of the new premium line. Is meatballs premium? I don't know. If you make a good meatball sub, you're premium to me. Oh, so good. And Factor also has cold pressed juice. Give up soda. Stop drinking soda. Look, here's a free tip for me. Take some plain old seltzer water. Right? You really want the bubbles. You don't want the sugar. Sugar makes you fat. Look, you take the cold pressed juice, you take the seltzer water. When my powers combine, look, if you like soda, if you're trying to kick it, combine these two things together. It's the same mouth pleasure as soda. You think you're drinking a treat, but you're doing something good for yourself. And if you need vegan, Factor's got you. If you need vegetarian, Factor's got you. How about keto plus? How about protein plus? They all have it. It's delicious meals that help you reach your fitness goals. And let's not forget portion control. That's fantastic as well. You're eating the correct amount of protein and nutrients, and you're not overeating. So thank you, Factor, for sticking with Regular Car Reviews all these years. And Factor has a deal for you. We have our own promo code. Use the code 50REGULAR. That gets you 50% off your first box and free shipping. How cool is that? You're getting fresh meals right to your door and they taste fantastic. Oh my God. Even the green beans. You wouldn't think this would have come out of a microwave, and it does. I don't know how they do it. They're crisp, they have that snap to it. Anyway, use code 50REGULAR, gets 50% off your first box and free shipping. Thank you so much. Now back to the car review.
Oh, one more thing. This is the last day for you to get entered to win this awesome Cafe Racer. So you want to go to fanathem.com/regularcars. It ends tonight, July 7th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is a fantastic bike. I've enjoyed having it. I've enjoyed making content with it, and you're going to like it too. Thanks so much for supporting Regular Car Reviews. You're helping us get out there and have adventures. Anyway, back to the Caravan and the sweet nostalgia.
A night shoebox on the top shelf of your master bathroom closet, where Dylan and Connor will never ever find it. Now, Chrysler was already designing this third-gen Caravan when the first-generation Caravan was still in dealership showrooms. Chrysler saw that what the 21st century was becoming. It was becoming sculpted plastics, cab-forward layouts, raked forward windshields and hoods, molded headlights, all-wheel drive, soft, comforting interior spaces. And they got their rapidographs and Bristol board tablets out, and even when the second-generation Caravan was at the New York Auto Show, they were sketching this. Now, there were 7 engines produced for the third-generation Caravan worldwide. A 2-liter single-cam 4-cylinder, a 2-liter double cam 4-cylinder, a 2-liter variant of the SRT4 engine, a 3-liter Mitsubishi V6, a 3.8-liter Chrysler V6, and a 3.3-liter E85 variant of that V6. And there was also a 2.5-liter Italian turbo diesel 4-cylinder. But in the colonies, the most popular engine is the 3.8-liter Chrysler V6, making 166 horsepower in 1996, and in 1997, and then later, it was up to 180 horsepower for the 1998 to the 2000 year. Now, I know 180 horsepower sounds weak, and you're not wrong, because the Neon SRT4 made a fun 250 horsepower from that 2.4-liter Turbo 4, but the 3.8-liter V6 also grunts out a usable 420 pound-feet of torque. Great. The Caravan won't be strangled by its own AC compressor when there's 7 people inside and you're chugging over the Walt Whitman Bridge on the way to Ocean City, New Jersey for a family-friendly and sober vacation. Now, that also makes for a sober accelerating experience. When you drive a third-generation Caravan, there's no difference between quarter throttle and full throttle. Nothing. All the torque from the 3.8-liter is between 1,000 and 3,000 RPM, and the 4-speed 4.1 TE automatic wants to short it like inside investors who have friends in the CIA who know what's about to happen next year. Anyway, the third-generation Caravan is also from the era of Chrysler Minivan products that had no option for stow-and-go seats, and I love that. If you wanted cargo space, you were blessed with the opportunity to do squats. The rear bench seat weighs about 100 pounds, and I think the middle captain's chairs weigh something between like 60 and 80 pounds each. The benefit of this is that you lighten the van by about 200 pounds when you take the seats out. So you can put 200 pounds of cargo into this and you've still broken even. You could put more in. That raises the cargo load limit. Now, later Caravans had insipid stow-and-go seats. You know, Toyota Sienna does this too. I hate that. I get it. Stow-and-go seats are inclusive for the elderly whose backs and knees can't handle squats. So they can fold the seats themselves instead of asking for help. But here's the thing. Minivan seats that come all the way out, that you have to lift out yourself, force you as middle-aged and early elderly people, they force you to be nice to at least 2 people in your life. When you have a van like this with seats that you have to lift out yourself to use, you can't become an old, fuddy, crudgy, whiny boomer. You can't do it, because the meaner you get to people, the less help you will receive. That's why I love seats in minivans that come all the way out. They make you a better person. But the nostalgia of this is, it even smells like high school in here. It smells like a wet hoodie all the time. You had to walk home in the rain with only a hoodie to protect you. And then you just wear that hoodie the rest of the evening. And it's wet. You know that smell? That's what the inside of this smells like. It's not a bad smell. It's just, what are you going to do? Because this van was birthed from the velveteen uterus of domestic consumerism. The Dodge Caravan was for parents who lived in that glorious period between the adolescence and adulthood of their children. They're not endearingly cute anymore, but they haven't yet grown up to disappoint you. The minivan itself is the manifestation of disciplined desire, because you made this choice out of responsibility rather than individual freedom. Yet, that's the choice you were traditionally encouraged to make, and you were applauded for having the good judgment to make it. Yes, it was boring, but this was boring at a time when boredom was simply a component of everyday life rather than an existential threat to one's happiness. It wasn't as pioneering as the original Gen 1 minivan, or as fancy as the Chrysler Town and Country, but the Dodge Caravan, it's always been there. A lovingly ignored artifact that blends into the beige floral wallpaper of everyday life. Dodge Caravan. Sponsored by Middle Child Syndrome. The Dodge Caravan was Chrysler's reward to itself for surviving its own management. By the late 1970s, the Chrysler was leaning against death's narrow doorway until Lee Iacocca got a loan guarantee from the U.S. government for $1.5 billion. He then took $700 million of that sum and poured it into making minivans. They appealed to the same people who drove station wagons in the 1970s, but the minivan allowed them to sit higher, have more space, enjoy a more imposing, patriotically oversized design that made them look corner office qualified at windowless cubicle by the break room prices. And the approach worked. This was one of the most important cars of its generation, not just for helping save Chrysler, but by popularizing the modern minivan segment that would go strong for almost the next 20 years. The company ended up selling over 500,000 minivans per year, with industry-wide minivan sales peaking at 1.4 million for this model year, 2000. As far as marketing, the Dodge Caravan was slotted between the Plymouth Voyager and the Chrysler Town & Country, and it outlasted both of them. The Voyager bit the dust in the year 2000, and the Town & Country was discontinued in the year 2016, whereas the Dodge Caravan lasted until 2020. I guess the Voyager technically still exists as a Chrysler model, but semantics, whatever. The age of the minivan is mostly over in 2025. Yeah, you could still get the Chrysler Pacifica, the Kia Sedona, the Honda Odyssey, or the fantastic Toyota Sienna, but the water park spirit of an endless summer is gone. Dodge Caravan. It feels like driving your cousin's house to your cousin's house. Oh yeah, this is a car review. All right, back to the engine. The engine in this particular Caravan is the 3.3-liter V6. Makes a little less than that 180 I was talking about earlier. This makes 158 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque. Initially, most of the third gens were offered with the same 3-liter Mitsubishi 6G72 V6 that was in the second gen, except emission standards were starting to get tighter and the Mitsubishi-sourced engine didn't meet emission standards in places like California and northeastern areas of the United States. I believe that's true. So Chrysler decided to adopt their own V6, and that's the flex fuel 3.3 liter that this Caravan is using. And from what we could find, it seems this is generally viewed as the more durable and torque-heavy engine. I mean, the 3.8 liter is good too, in addition to having better emissions performance. And honestly, I'm not sure if production costs actually did go up with offering this many engine choices, since you would think an increase would be reflected in the MSRP. But with the Plymouth Voyager being discontinued in 2000, the Dodge Caravan became the lowest priced Chrysler minivan, with the base model in 2000 going for approximately $21,000 and only $23,000 for the top SE trim. Today, fair market value of a third gen has settled around $2,400 used. And it's kind of a steal if you can find one that's not beat to hell, because oh my God, third gens were just destroyed. They were with suburban families when they were new, working class families when they were bought used, and drug addicts after that. I had an old joke when talking about the second gen, but when you see an old minivan pull up to your place of business and you're working retail and you see that third generation Caravan pull up, oh no. There is going to be someone who is not going to respond to reason getting out of that vehicle. There's going to be 4 demon children coming out of that who are gonna wreck the store. This ain't good when you see one of these things. I used to dread seeing these things when I worked in retail at Boscov's. Oh my goodness. Someone who comes in intending to cause problems. Someone who still hasn't escaped from that childhood mentality that if you just make enough noise, you get what you want. Anyway, you get what you want with fuel economy. It's not terrible. You get 16 city, 23 highway, 19 combined. I mean, it's a car built for domestic adventure, to the point where even its flaws are sort of charming because it brakes in a very domestic way. You gotta pick up off the floor the switch for the driver's side electric window and stick it back in, and then you can move it up and down, and then you gotta put it somewhere so you can find it later. And the passenger sliding door only opens from the outside. But even despite its faults, it's durable. These things break, but you can put them back together. It's durable like a diner steak. I'm convinced you could set a third-gen minivan on fire and it would put itself back together just to walk through the flames like the T1000. Cirrus and Eric drove this 1,600 miles with a bad wheel bearing that screamed the entire time, but the car didn't fail. It had a messed up tie rod end that they weren't able to have fixed for 8 months, but again, the car didn't fail. And they credit to the fact that Cirrus bought this off of a couple whose son would drive it 300 miles for work every single day. So there's every possibility that the reason it runs so well is because so much of its 200,000 miles has been spent on the highway in places that aren't Pennsylvania. It's a van as resilient as a foodborne illness in a strip club buffet, and it's determined as a virgin on prom night. And maybe the design is dated, but it's also loaded with character. Are the blob shapes coming back? Blob design? Is it exciting? Well, I think it is. We think it is. Mostly because of what it represents. Come with me on this. It's the thrill of boredom, which might sound paradoxical, but hear me out. Since the beginning of time, society has placed excitement on a pedestal. We've all just been perpetuating this notion that we should aspire towards big trips and bigger weddings and having the freedom to go out and the stamina to stay out. We collectively participate in the fiction that living life to the fullest means doing as much as we can, as often as we can. But that's not where life actually lives. You know? Life lives in school buses that ran on limited routes, like buses, trains, and trolleys. They were bound in servitude to scolding authority and transporting you to a building filled with condescension and no's. Real life is sitting in the back of a minivan as your parents take you to somewhere you have to go, and there's nothing to do but look at the guardrails going by and having your little on-the-road moment and imagining a little man running along it. It's finding music in the cement slabs on Pennsylvania highways that go da-dunk, 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 da-dunk. It's finding pattern in sculpted velour seats as you lay on the floor at your grandparents' house because both your parents are away and someone needs to watch you. It's finding a world of opportunity in a blank page of paper and an old ballpoint pen until you wait for whenever your grandma says that it's okay to have TV time and another artist is born. But the contrast of that boredom is spiked by the excitement when you're rewarded then as a licensed car-driving teenager in the 1990s and 2000s when you're allowed to then use that family minivan and the car transforms from an object of perceived oppression to something that's now taking you to, get this, the bowling alley, and you're driving it with your friends in there. And Sugar Ray never sounded so euphoric. You're going to the place where they have the old cigarette machine that takes coins, and you're not going to buy one, but maybe you'll try your first one out in the back by the dumpster. Imagine that. The stuff that maybe wealthy kids never understood. The joy of fake smoking a cigarette behind a dumpster that stores the grease from the fryer. And in that drippy, smelly moment, you find a happiness you never knew existed. A slight, small, symbolic rebellion. And all of that provided by a third-generation Caravan. Maybe it's the nature of the world we're living in, but it feels like if we don't have things to constantly look forward to, we wonder what we would have to even be happy about. But boredom is good. Because boredom means stability. And stability means you aren't in a perpetual state of chaos. You have feet under you. You are operating from a position of strength. Life may not be exciting, but a simple, stable life provides the optimal conditions for happiness to be created because you're more grounded. You're more present. You're here in the moment where you belong, staring out from a Dunkin' Donuts window onto a lonely highway in Nowheresville, Pennsylvania, as you drink coffee at 11 p.m. and eat a donut with your friends as they make nonsense jokes. In that, a strange nirvana grows. Because nostalgia is the future's reward for a well-lived present. The Dodge Caravan is boring, but it's a box that transports thrills, or in this case, a blob shape that transports thrills, because it means you're closer to the point to where this minivan gets you closer to the point where you can actually start living. Have a good week.